Chapter 71. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When Bai Ye just left the base to hunt dangerous species, a group of uninvited guests came to the assassination force base. They were sent by Kaijio to carry out Kaijio's orders. Kaijio certainly knew that in addition to Bai Ye, there were two Imperial Tools users in the Imperial Assassination Force, Sai Lu, the owner of the 100-armed giant, and Hei Tong, the owner of the 8 rooms. So he also sent 3 Imperial Tools users among his people, although Hei Tong, who has been brainwashed many times, is unlikely to resist. It is safe to be on the safe side. Of course, these people did not come directly to fight with Bai Ye. They would only take action when they had to use violent means. However, when they arrived at the assassination force base, Bai Ye happened to be out. "Where is Bai Ye? Where is he?" The man wearing an eagle-beak mask walked in front and asked Sai Lu in front of him with an imposing manner. "My master went out for something." "What do you want to do with him?" Although the other party's attitude was very bad, Sai Lu did not show any dissatisfaction. In this situation, it can be seen that the people above are coming. "We are here to arrest him. This is the order of Lord Kaijio. I hope you will cooperate and not make meaningless resistance." The man with the eagle-beak mask said coldly, "But in addition to Bai Ye, you have to go with us. Bai Ye is the biggest thorn in Lord Kaijio's side, and Sai Lu is the hidden danger second only to Bai Ye." Of course, Sai Lu cannot be allowed to continue to stay in the Empire assassination team. However, considering that the only one who has been compatible with the Imperial Weapon 100-armed giant for so long is Sai Lu, he is a very rare talent, and Sai Lu is not the main culprit. Kaijio did not intend to get rid of Sai Lu. Instead, he planned to brainwash Sai Lu like he did to the assassination team before, so that Sai Lu would absolutely obey the Empire, so that there would be no more mistakes. "Are you going to arrest the master?" Sai Lu's heart suddenly skipped a beat. What she was worried about happened. The actions of the master before really caused dissatisfaction from his superiors. Both she and the master will be punished. "Yeah, that kid likes to meddle in other people's business. What he did seriously offended Master Kaijio. Even killing all 9 clans of him would not be too much." The eagle-beak masked man said, "That kid is hopeless, but if you are willing to obey, Master Kaijio will still spare your life." Seilu was silent immediately. Her heart was in a struggle, with the Empire on one side and her master on the other. She didn't want to betray the Empire, nor did she want her master to be killed, which made her in a dilemma. What should I do? Let's wait for him to come back here, and call out the other people in the assassination team. We have something to notify them. The masked man said in an imperative tone. Seilu immediately notified the others and calmed down at this time. She had roughly figured out that the things she and her master did were not evil in themselves, and the so-called Master Kaijio was the one who was tainted with evil. Although Kaijio is a high-ranking official of the Empire, she must not succumb to evil. This is what her father who died in the line of duty told her, and she has always kept it in mind, even at the risk of betraying the Empire. As expected, the master is more important. After finding everyone, Sai Lu explained the situation in detail, knowing that both Commander Bai Ye and Commander Sai Lu would be punished, and even Commander Bai Ye would be executed. Everyone found it difficult to accept for a while. And they themselves seemed to be facing a lot of trouble. The people sent by Lord Kaijio asked them to go out, and they were definitely not there to chat with them. They estimated that they would also be punished to a certain extent. After all, before Commander Bai Ye arrived, the Empire's assassination force had always been so harsh. Everyone's face was very heavy, and they came to the eyes of those people. "Have all the members of the assassination force arrived?" The masked man asked. "Yes, all of them are here." Hei Tong responded expressionlessly. On the surface, he was very calm, but in fact, his heart was already in turmoil. Not only were her companions in a bad situation, but Commander Bai Ye was going to be executed. Although she had expected this day to come, she still couldn't calm down when it really happened. TSK, you are the only ones left. What a bunch of rubbish." The masked man said in a mocking tone. Even though they were mocked and insulted so directly, the assassination team members didn't dare to complain, and even tried not to show any dissatisfaction on their faces. Hei Tong lowered his head slightly and said nothing, looking at these guys who didn't dare to say a word. In short, your short good days are over. It's over. Your recent performance has disappointed Lord Kaichio, so you need to accept the punishment, the masked man said coldly. There is a girl named Yasha, right? According to the rules of the Imperial Assassination Force, she should have been punished, so she can't be spared. The punishment will be carried out as usual tonight. Then the rest of you will be put in solitary confinement for 3 days. You will not be given any medicine during the confinement. But before the confinement, there is also Yasha. You need to kill Bai Ye with your own hands. Each of you will cut him to death with a knife, otherwise your punishment will become more severe. When he said the last sentence, the masked man's eyes became fierce and fierce, although the expression under the mask could not be seen, it could be guessed that it must be very ferocious and crazy. He seemed to like the desperate look of others. There is no more desperate punishment than letting these guys personally torture their best and closest superiors. Hearing this, Yasha in the middle suddenly turned pale, and she still could not escape the fate of being punished. She was full of hope for life again, but she fell into despair again. This feeling was more desperate than directly punishing her at the beginning, and she had to torture Bai Ye with her own hands, which she could not accept. Hei Tong and others were no exception. Even if they wanted to kill them, they would admit it. But they couldn't do it by themselves, but they didn't know what to do. After all, in front of the people sent by Lord Kaichio, they had no choice at all, either obey or die. They didn't want to hurt Chief Bai Ye, but they didn't want to die yet. They hadn't been recognized by the Empire yet. If they were executed like this, their former companions would have died in vain. Looking at the reactions of these guys, the masked man was very happy, even happy to fly. He enjoyed this desperate atmosphere the most. At this time, Hei Tong was the first and only one who dared to stand up and resist. He said with a cold face, I can't accept that I have to torture Chief Bai Ye. P.S. There will be another chapter later, but it will probably be 1 or 2 o'clock. I don't recommend you to stay up late like me. Chapter 72. You are listening at novelfull.audio. That's right, we can't obey your order. Me too. Whether it's punishment or punishment, this kind of thing. Hei Tong, who took the lead in resisting, immediately encouraged everyone, and they all protested. The resistance of Hei Tong and others surprised the masked man. It seems that these guys have been spoiled by Bai Ye and their wings have grown hard. It is estimated that another reason is that they did not accept brainwashing on time last time, and the brainwashing effect has weakened. In the face of Hei Tong's resistance, the masked man became even more aggressive and grinned. Don't accept? Okay, then you can wait to be tortured. I want to see how long you can keep your mouth shut. In this era of empire, there are many cruel tortures. Even so, Hei Tong was unwilling to bow his head. However, they only dared to protest with words, but did not dare to resist directly with actions, because using actions to resist is equivalent to betraying the empire. Even if the brainwashing effect is weakened, they still find it difficult to betray the empire in their subconscious. At this time, Sai Lu resisted the urge to expel the evil, because her master had repeatedly advised her not to act impulsively, and now was the most unsuitable situation for impulse. She hugged Xiaobi tightly, as if she was worried that Xiaobi would suddenly act impulsively, and it seemed to be a subconscious action to restrain her emotions. Go, take them away. At this time, the masked man directly ordered the soldiers with him. Seeing that the soldiers were about to approach, Hei Tong and the others were still struggling whether to resist. At this moment, a slender figure suddenly appeared between the two sides. Wearing a mysterious white mask on his face, and carrying a huge and strange round fan on his back, the mysterious masked man suddenly appeared, which shocked everyone present. Who are you? Faced with the questioning, Bai Ye looked at those people of unknown origin, wearing armor commonly seen by imperial soldiers. He immediately guessed that it was most likely the soldiers sent by the superiors, and the aggressive look of these soldiers made it clear that they were here with ill intentions. If you are here to find Bai Ye, then the person you are looking for is me. Bai Ye said lightly. So you are Bai Ye. Come with us obediently. You have been ordered to be arrested by Lord Kaichio. The man wearing the eagle-beak mask said immediately. However, Bai Ye ignored him directly and asked Sai Lu and the others, what happened here just now? Let me understand the situation first. Master, Lu was surprised to find that it was the master who came back. Fortunately, she just restrained her impulsive emotions and waited for the master to come back. Sir. A smile finally appeared on Hei Tong's face, but her smile immediately turned into sorrow. After all, she was facing a very serious matter now. Lu immediately told Bai Ye what had just happened, which was a simple summary in a few words. After learning the general situation, Bai Ye's eyes suddenly turned cold. If these guys were just targeting him, he would have nothing to say, but Bai Ye couldn't tolerate even Lu and Hei Tong. If he was just thinking about resisting normally, he now wanted to kill these guys. At this time, Bai Ye pulled the chain at the end of the Uchiha fan and took out the Uchiha fan behind him. Seeing Bai Ye ready to fight, the masked man stared and said in a deep voice, "Do you want to rebel?" Bai Ye was too lazy to answer such meaningless nonsense. His life was threatened. If he didn't resist, would he be waiting to die? You have to think clearly about the price of rebellion. Everyone around you will be implicated by you in the future. The masked man was still threatening Bai Ye. However, Bai Ye didn't buy it at all. He took the initiative to kill him. He also reminded Lu, "I'll leave the task of protecting them to you." He did not ask Hei Tong and the others to help him in the battle, because he considered that Hei Tong and the others could not make up their minds to betray the empire, although in his opinion, this was not considered a betrayal of the empire, but just a normal act of self-protection. Does it mean that in the face of an abnormal or even mentally ill imperial official, one must absolutely obey him to avoid betrayal? Yes. Lu immediately protected Hei Tong and the others behind him. However, she was very worried about her master. After all, her master had to face so many enemies alone, and there must be many imperial artifact users among these enemies. Seeing Bai Ye rushing over, the masked man snorted coldly and immediately pressed the button that looked like a remote control tied to his right forearm. The moment the button was pressed, many shells attacked Bai Ye from all directions out of thin air. This was obviously the power of the imperial equipment. Although it was unknown what imperial equipment it was obviously a trap-type imperial equipment, and it could create traps out of thin air, but in front of Bai Ye, this imperial equipment was obviously meaningless. With the insight brought to him by the Mangekyō Sharingan, even a trap that suddenly appeared out of thin air could not catch him off guard, because the dense shells came from all directions. The Uchiha fan could not block all the shells at once. Bai Ye first used the Uchiha fan to block the first few shells in front, and the power of those shells was immediately absorbed by the Uchiha fan. The masked man had a grim smile on his face. You can block the shells in front of you, but what about the shells flying from behind? However, he stopped laughing immediately, and saw that the shells flying from the other three directions passed directly through Bai Ye's body without hurting Bai Ye at all. Even the shells that passed through Bai Ye's body from behind flew towards them. The masked man panicked and pressed a button on the remote control on his arm, which made the shells that were about to hit them disappear. Uchiha rebound. At this time, while the masked man's attention was distracted, Bai Ye suddenly fanned the Uchiha fan in his hand and returned all the wind attribute energy converted from the shells to the masked man. However, the power was still a bit small. After all, it only absorbed a few shells. Only those ordinary soldiers with weaker strength were blown away, and they hit the wall one by one, and many pits appeared on the wall. The strong impact made many soldiers faint, and the rest were also unable to move. There were only 6 people who could barely keep their bodies, including the masked man, and they were obviously all imperial equipment users and ministerial equipment users. The masked man's was a trap-type imperial equipment, and the others had already revealed their own imperial equipment and ministerial equipment. What kind of imperial equipment did that guy use? The masked man stared at Bai Ye with a shocked look. Facing the 6 imperial equipment users and ministerial equipment users, Bai Ye showed no fear on his face and his eyes were calm. You can all come together to save time. PS, 3 updates today is fine. The gift value is almost reaching the target. If it reaches the target, I will try to update 4. Chapter 73. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Playing tricks. Feeling despised, the masked man was immediately furious. No matter what kind of imperial weapon the other party used, they had 3 imperial weapon users and 3 subordinate weapon users. Generally, the gap between imperial weapon users is not too big. If the 3 Imperial weapon users and 3 subordinate weapon users cannot defeat an Imperial weapon user, it would be a joke, unless it is the strongest Imperial weapon user in the Empire like General Esteth, who has a gap in strength. In the original work, Mangekyō mentioned that if you want to defeat Esteth, you need at least 10 Imperial weapon users including Akame and more than 50,000 elite soldiers, but in fact, the combat power used in the end far exceeded this data, except Akame used the secret technique of the Imperial weapon Murasame to greatly improve the combat power of the cursed poison. The rest of the Imperial weapon users of the Revolutionary Army did not even have the ability to fight with Esteth, let alone the so-called elite soldiers. It would be useless no matter how many tens of thousands of them came. After repeatedly consuming Esteth, Akame finally used the deadly curse of Murasame to force Esteth to turn herself into ice dust and die, which was worthy of the title of strongest. Obviously, the masked man and his men regarded Bai Ye as an ordinary Imperial weapon user. After all, there was only one General Esteth. What if any Imperial weapon user was as strong as General Esteth? This kid is too arrogant. He even wanted to fight against the 6 of us at the same time. Another sturdy man using a hammer-shaped Imperial weapon said. I originally heard that this kid was a handsome boy, but unfortunately he wore a mask. I like to cherish handsome boys the most. A woman with a somewhat fat figure also held an unknown Imperial weapon in her hand, which was shaped like a horn. I think you are going to feed him to the dangerous species, that the sturdy man immediately complained. No way, after all, I can't bear to let my babies starve, even though I've already fed them once before I came. The fat woman said in a soft voice. Don't talk nonsense, cut the tendons of that boy's hands and feet first, so that he can't resist at all, that the masked man said coldly at this time. The other 2 Imperial weapon users also became completely serious, and they attacked Bai Ye at the same time with tacit understanding. Captain Selu, we should help Commander Bai Ye. Seeing that Commander Bai Ye decided to fight back, He Tong seemed to have made up his mind. Anyway, things have developed to this point. Once Commander Bai Ye loses, they will inevitably be implicated and executed, then she might as well fight to the death. She can't die yet, at least before she kills her sister with her own hands. He Tong, do you really want to do this? Kelly asked He Tong in a low voice. Not only Kelly, but also the members of the assassination team except He Tong have not thought it through thoroughly. Otherwise, are we going to watch Commander Bai Ye being outnumbered and killed? After that, we will surely die. Maybe this is betraying the Empire, but if everyone dies, won't everything be meaningless? He Tong expressed her thoughts. She was able to make up her mind faster than the others because she had a different feeling for Commander Bai Ye. That's true. As expected, He Tong is calmer and smarter than us, unlike me whose mind is already in a mess. Anyway, it's the word death anyway, so it's better to just go for it. At least during the time I've been with Commander Bai Ye, I've never been so happy. Under He Tong's promotion and Commander Bai Ye's decisive resistance, everyone's hearts were shaken even more. If you have thought it through, then let's fight. Selu said excitedly. Master has said before that this kind of evil person cannot represent the Empire. We are executing justice, not betraying the Empire. It is better to say that we are eradicating the dirty termites for the Empire. Selu's words immediately woke everyone up. Although the persuasiveness of these words is not particularly strong, what they need is such a reason to convince themselves, so that they don't have to bear the huge psychological pressure of not betraying the Empire in their subconscious. Seeing that the people in the assassination team are also going to intervene, the masked man immediately shouted in his heart, and urged anxiously, hurry. Try to fight quickly, that he is not suitable for close combat as he is using a trap-type Imperial weapon, so he is commanding from the back while harassing Bai Ye with a trap-type Imperial weapon. The sturdy man holding the hammer-type Imperial weapon first rushed to Bai Ye and smashed Bai Ye with a hammer. Bai Ye immediately raised the Uchiha fan to resist the attack. Success, the sturdy man sneered. As if his conspiracy had succeeded, because the ability of this hammer-shaped Imperial weapon is extremely strong penetration. No matter how hard the opponent's armor is, it has 100% penetration and can completely ignore the armor. Even if it is blocked by weapons, it cannot stop the penetration effect. At the same time, the destructive power is also very strong. If the imperial weapon is not hard enough, it may be smashed to pieces by a hammer. However, the next moment, Bai Ye did not break into pieces as the sturdy man imagined, but looked unscathed. At the moment when the sturdy man felt incredible, Bai Ye's mouth slightly raised. Uchiha rebound. With a roar in his heart, a terrifying storm swept towards the opponent. This storm is much more fierce than before, and it is not comparable to the power of the traps transformed by those shells. Even if it is the damage of the killing imperial weapon, no matter what its penetration ability is, the Uchiha fan can perfectly absorb it, which completely restrains the penetration ability of the hammer-shaped imperial weapon. The only flaw that can be barely considered is that the Uchiha fan cannot take into account attacks from multiple directions at the same time. Gah! The clothes on the sturdy man were torn by the storm, and many parts of his body were bloody and fleshy, and some parts even had bones exposed. He rolled back and forth, and barely stabilized his body with the hammer-shaped imperial weapon against the ground. This attack has already made him pay a painful price, and he will probably die if he gets two more. At this moment, multiple flying dangerous species suddenly appeared in the sky, under the call of the fat woman through the horn-shaped imperial weapon. Those flying dangerous species swooped down towards Bai Ye at the same time. Not only were they extremely fast, but some of them would also launch attacks such as feathers, bone spurs, and energy waves, almost all round and without dead angles to deal a fatal blow to Bai Ye. At the same time, there were traps generated out of thin air everywhere that posed a threat to Bai Ye. Xiaobi, seeing that the situation Bai Ye was facing was very critical, Saiyu hurriedly ordered Xiaobi to protect his master. The giant Xiaobi immediately stood in front of Bai Ye. However, Bai Ye had actually teleported himself away instantly. He teleported to the front of the burly man and swung the Uchiha fan in his backhand to finish off the opponent. Chapter 74. You are listening at novelfull.audio. These people, including the sturdy man, had no idea that Bai Ye had the ability to teleport. He was still injured and could not react in time. He could only watch the huge fan swinging towards him in despair and fear. The next moment, his perspective began to rotate at high speed. His head rotated in the air for an unknown number of times before rolling to the ground. At this time, the sturdy man was not completely dead. He realized what had happened when he saw his headless body next to him. He was extremely desperate to face death. After a while, he was completely unconscious, with a look of unwillingness on his face. Ding! The host killed an Emperor tool user and received a reward, 40 system points. Bai Ye immediately received the corresponding points reward. He suddenly thought that killing an Emperor tool user could get a lot of system points. Aren't these guys here to give him points? 3 Emperor tool users and 3 Minister tool users can get at least more than 100 system points. Damn it! The masked man felt bad when he saw his companions being killed. They seriously underestimated Bai Ye's strength, mainly because his ability to appear and disappear was too extraordinary, and they couldn't hit Bai Ye no matter what. So what was the point of fighting? They had never heard of or seen such an outrageous imperial weapon. Isn't it completely invincible? When the masked man was deeply shocked, Hei Tong had already drawn his sword to slash at him. Fortunately, his own physical skills were not bad, so he dodged immediately and fought with the short blade equipped on his other arm. Little sister, I'll give you one last chance, and the punishment you should have received can be written off. The masked man, seeing that the situation was not good, had an idea and immediately lured the assassination team to assist them. But before he finished speaking, Hei Tong slashed again. Obviously, Hei Tong didn't want to waste time with this guy, and he was determined to follow Commander Bai Ye. 8 rooms, .2 swords failed to kill the opponent, and Hei Tong decisively summoned the 8 rooms puppet. She deliberately did not summon the super dangerous species Destigolu, because there are many companions here, and the base is located in the imperial capital, and Destigolu's ability can easily hurt nearby civilians. However, the other 5 human puppets are enough to make the masked man drink a pot. Xiao Bai, go berserk! At this time, Saiyu shouted and decisively used the secret technique of the Imperial Weapon 100 Arms Giant. Although Xiao Bai can only lie in bed for several months after using this secret technique, in order to share the pressure with the master, Saiyu thinks it is completely worth it. Xiao Bai's body has become larger on the basis of the original giantization, and the muscles all over his body have become abnormally developed. and Xiao Bai's face has become particularly hideous. Go Berserk. During the duration of Go Berserk, Xiao Bai's ability has doubled in all aspects. The various attacks of those flying dangerous species did not hurt it, and the dense wounds on its body healed quickly. It easily jumped to a height of several dozen meters, grabbed two flying dangerous species with both hands, pulled them down and smashed them to the ground, and then smashed them into meat patties with a few heavy punches. Ah! My lovely baby! That the fat woman's face was immediately filled with grief, and she screamed heartbreakingly, but she didn't dare to step forward, otherwise she would be the next one to be smashed into a meat pie by Xiaobi. However, at this moment, the fat woman suddenly felt a chill on her back. If you don't pay attention to your back, you are not a qualified killer. As a cold voice came, the fat woman felt a gust of wind before she could turn around. This was the wind caused by Bai Ye swinging the Uchiha fan, and then the fat woman's body was separated, her head flew out and embedded in the wall 10 meters away, and her body rolled twice. Ding! The host killed an Imperial Tool user and received a reward, 40 system points. It is no wonder that Bai Ye felt that the reward system points were a bit too little. For example, this fat woman was too weak. Every Imperial Tool is not weak, but the ability of the Imperial Tool user determines the upper limit. For example, Esdeath can continuously develop new abilities of Devil's Essence, and her own physical skills are also very top-notch. On the other hand, this fat woman's physical skills are obviously very poor, relying solely on this Imperial Tool that seems to be able to tame flying dangerous species. 2 of the 3 Imperial Tool users died in succession, and the remaining Imperial Tool user was obviously at a disadvantage. The 3 Ministerial Tool users were panicked when they saw this. There were only 3 Ministerial Tool users, and they had lost their fighting spirit. They were naturally vulnerable to the elite Imperial assassination troops. In the blink of an eye, these 3 Ministerial Tool users were destroyed. In order to grab the head, Bai Ye directly used the power of his left eye to distort the space. Ability, focusing on the neck of the masked man. The masked man was defeated by the multifaceted attack of the Atrium puppets, and it was probably only a matter of time before he was killed by Hei Tong. His trap ability had no effect on Hei Tong either, because there was a corpse puppet named Natera who was specifically responsible for protecting Hei Tong. The masked man, who was already struggling to deal with the Atrium puppets, naturally did not notice that the space around his neck was twisting rapidly. His neck was twisted off by the twisted space in an instant, and his head fell to the ground with a bang. What is going on here? The masked man's last thought showed that he didn't even know how he died. Ding! The host killed an Imperial Tool user and received a reward, 45 system points. As the system prompt sounded, it meant that Bai Ye had succeeded in stealing the head. Seeing that the opponent suddenly died inexplicably, Hei Tong was a little confused. She turned her head again and found that all the enemies present seemed to have been dealt with. Especially the scene on Xiaobi's side was the most spectacular, with the ground full of tragic deaths of flying dangerous species, all of whom were killed by the violent Xiaobi, and no one seemed to be injured. However, what Hei Tong was most concerned about was the situation of Chief Bai Ye. When she looked at Bai Ye was just walking towards her. It's all right now. Bai Ye walked in front of Hei Tong and gently patted off some dust on Hei Tong. As for the act of snatching heads just now, he didn't mention it at all. Of course, even if he mentioned it, Hei Tong would not care. After all, it was not really any experience points. Hei Tong smiled slightly, but her expression immediately became serious, and her serious look seemed a little cute. She reached out to pull off Bai Ye's pants, and her movements were very fast, and Bai Ye almost didn't react, but as expected, his reaction speed was better, and he immediately held Hei Tong's hands. What do you want to do? I want to make sure the commander is not injured. Hei Tong said seriously. No, isn't it obvious? Bai Ye replied, even his clothes were not damaged at all. There was a companion who did not find the hidden injury in time, and he looked fine when he came back, and then suddenly. So I am worried that this situation will happen again. Hei Tong explained in detail. Feeling Hei Tong's concern, Bai Ye smiled. Don't worry, I'm fine. That's great. Hei Tong was overjoyed and couldn't help hugging Bai Ye. This time, Bai Ye did not dodge or counterattack. P.S. There will be a 4th update later, because the gift value has reached the standard. Thank you very much. As for the problem of water writing. Actually, I want to write more carefully instead of deliberately thinking about water writing, so I will try my best to make it large and full. Chapter 76. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I am willing. Me too. As long as the commander doesn't mind my lack of strength. Commander Bai Ye is right. Loyalty is not blind submission. After thinking carefully about what Commander Bai Ye said, Kelly and others finally got out of the dead end, mainly because they had seen the dark side of the Empire with their own eyes. They could barely explain it as accidental once or twice, but they had seen it too many times with their own eyes, and it had nothing to do with the rebels, but the brutal persecution of the lower class by the officials of the Empire. Compared with those corrupt officials, they were certainly more willing to follow Commander Bai Ye. Changing the Empire from within is fundamentally different from those revolutionary armies. Those revolutionary armies want to overthrow the Empire directly, they find it difficult to accept overthrowing the Empire. Then it's decided. What about He Tong? What do you want? At this time, Bai Ye turned his head and asked He Tong. He Tong smiled slightly. Of course I am willing, as long as I can be with Commander Bai Ye. Hearing He Tong's direct words, many people exclaimed. He Tong was so good that they didn't even have the turn to make a scene. Okay, collect the Imperial tools and subordinate tools from those guys, and see who can match those Imperial tools and subordinate tools later. Bai Ye said to everyone. When he killed the 3 Imperial tools, he deliberately avoided damaging them. Even in the deadly feud between the Imperial Army and the Revolutionary Army, they would intentionally avoid damaging the Imperial tools during the battle, because they are very useful and very valuable, not to mention the Imperial tools. Even the subordinate tools of the 3 subordinate tools just now were carefully protected by Kelly and others, having more Imperial tools and subordinate tools will definitely be of great help to the Akatsuki organization that is about to be established. Okay. They have decided to follow Bai Ye to establish a new organization, and naturally understand the importance of supplementing Imperial tools and subordinate tools for them. Pack up your things later. We can't stay in this base any longer. Let's find a hidden place outside the Imperial capital to build a new base and completely get out of the control of Kaijyo. Bai Ye continued. He already had a rough plan in mind, which was to use the nest of the super dangerous species Destigolu as the base of the Akatsuki organization, that is, the Saiga Cave. This place is pretty good. It is a dangerous place that almost everyone knows, but no one knows that Destigolu has been killed by him. Now the Saiga Cave has become the safest place, except that there may be dangerous species lurking near the cave occasionally. But as long as they are not super dangerous species, there is basically no threat to them. Okay, but there is another question. What should we do with our medicine? Kelly and others immediately thought of this problem. After all, if there is no medicine to maintain, their abilities will decline seriously, and they will also be very painful. This is simple. Take those experimental personnel with you. After all, they are working for wages. Just give them higher wages than before. Bai Ye said lightly. What gave him a headache was the drugs themselves. All members of the assassination team had been injecting and taking drugs for a long time, and the side effects caused were irreversible. The withdrawal reaction was so severe that it was unbearable, which meant that they could not quit these drugs at all. His original approach was to slowly reduce their drug dosage. Although it would have some impact on their abilities, that is, it would be weaker than before, at least the side effects were much lighter than before. Otherwise, according to the experimenter's speculation, if the original drug dosage continued, all members of the assassination team would die of premature aging within 5 years. Now basically, Bai Ye only let them use things containing trace amounts of drug ingredients like He Tong to maintain their daily lives, which was probably just enough to avoid withdrawal reactions. As for the battle, Bai Ye would definitely not let them take the white pills with extremely high drug content as before. They simply dealt with the bodies of those sent by Kaijyo, as if nothing had happened. They did not intend to show off in public, and would wait until the Akatsuki organization was established and settled down. When Bai Ye offered generous wages to those experimental personnel, almost all of them were willing to go with him, mainly because they had no other choice. Of course, Bai Ye did not force or threaten them. It was just because once Bai Ye and He Tong and others left the Imperial Assassination Force, the Imperial Assassination Force would automatically disband, and they would be unemployed at that time. That it's not easy to find such a good job again. What's more, Bai Ye offered them a higher salary than before. As for the money issue, Bai Ye would never be short of money. He had already become rich after hunting so many dangerous species. In fact, there were still a few experimenters who were not so willing, because they were more afraid of death. Just think about it and you will know how risky it is to leave the Empire's assassination team with Bai Ye, but they were more afraid of being silenced by Bai Ye. They all knew these things, and they felt that if they refused, they would definitely be silenced by Bai Ye. In fact, Bai Ye had no intention of silencing them, but they insisted on thinking so. After all, this was the usual practice in the Empire, and being silenced by accident was already the norm. Let's try these Imperial tools and Minister tools together. Whoever has the highest degree of fit with a certain Imperial tool or Minister tool will be given it to use. At this time, He Tong placed the 3 Imperial tools and 3 Minister tools on the table. Then, the others tried these Imperial tools and Minister tools one after another. Koroito and Sayu, who already have the Imperial equipment, don't need to try, but in the end, only one girl was selected to have a high degree of compatibility with the horn-shaped Imperial equipment. The compatibility of the best testers of the other 2 Imperial equipments is average, and can only be said to be barely usable. Although the Imperial equipment cannot fully exert its ability, it is still much stronger than the average servant equipment user, which is enough. The servant equipment does not have too many requirements for the user, and it can be given to whoever uses it most appropriately. The preparations have been almost done. The next step is to go directly to the Saiga cave and use it as our new base. At this time, Bai Ye said to everyone, although the Saiga cave is a bit far from the Imperial capital, the horn-shaped Imperial equipment can summon flying dangerous species, so the time they spend on the journey from the Imperial capital to the Saiga cave is greatly shortened. Since the news of the death of the masked man and his people has not been spread at all, when Bai Ye and his friends leave, the Imperial guards will naturally not stop them. At this time, Bai Ye was ready to exchange the Fire Cloud Robe, which symbolized the Akatsuki organization. In the system mall, the organization was named Akatsuki, so the Fire Cloud Robe was definitely indispensable. Chapter 77. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Night attack on the base. When Bai Ye returned to the capital, Hill and Main also returned to the base. We just encountered Bai Ye when we were hunting dangerous species. As soon as she returned to the base, Main told the story of her encounter with Bai Ye. Aren't you all training nearby? How could you meet Bai Ye nearby? Najezitan was surprised and said, did he find our base? Did he tell you anything? Najezitan, left, and Hill, right. No, he probably didn't know our base was here. He seemed to be hunting dangerous species at the time, and it seemed that he ran into us by accident. Main said. He didn't say anything to us, nor did he fight with us. At this time, Hill also replied, I told him directly that I wanted to win him over, but it was all my fault that I was too impatient and my expression skills were poor, so he rejected me. She immediately showed a look of self-blame on her face. It's not Hill's fault. That guy didn't appreciate it. Main said immediately. It seems that the boy named Bai Ye really doesn't know how to enjoy himself. He even rejected our gentle and beautiful Hill. Leon teased. Don't make it sound like he'll confess to that guy. Main said with a somewhat dissatisfied tone. Hill didn't react at all, and seemed to be slow in this regard. It's normal that he didn't agree to us easily. Didn't he spend a lot of effort for Akatsuki before? Larberg said. Larberg, strictly speaking, they paid a lot of price to win over Akatsuki, such as the members of the killer organization Oberg except Chelsea were all killed. If it weren't for the efforts of Oberg, especially the leader Merard, they wouldn't have been able to win over Akatsuki so easily. It was Merard who took Akatsuki to see the countless dark sides of the Empire. Are you talking about Merard? Akatsuki suddenly remembered the woman at the beginning. Although she is a very strange woman, if it weren't for Merad, she wouldn't know that she had been doing the wrong things in the Empire Assassination Corps, but Marad was also killed by her own hands. At that time, she had not yet awakened, otherwise she would not have killed Marad, who could be regarded as her benefactor. No, no. I just gave a simple example. Lubbock immediately realized that he had messed up and said hurriedly. What a mess. Leone punched Lubbock directly, making Lubbock scream. Of course, this was just Lubbock's acting, and it didn't hurt much in fact. It doesn't matter, it's obviously my fault, you don't have to care about my feelings so much. Akagi said. In short, what was Bai Ye's attitude at the time? Did he refuse decisively, or did he have room for consideration? At this time, Nageshitan brought the topic back to the point. Although it was more tactful, it was also a decisive refusal. Hill responded. By the way, Hill has agreed with that guy to meet again in 3 days, and that guy agreed. Main comforted Hill, so, Hill, you don't need to blame yourself, it's better to say that you have brought us a greater opportunity, right? Well. Hill smiled again, but in her eyes, it was because everyone was too gentle, so they never blamed her. Afterwards, after learning some more details from Hill and Main, Nageshitan had roughly understood. Then we will wait for him at the place where Hill and Bai Ye agreed. By the way, the one sent by the Revolutionary Army headquarters will arrive soon. She will not only bring us detailed information about Bai Ye, but also join our night raid and become a new member of our night raid. Nageshitan informed everyone. Oh, we have new companions so soon. Leone said happily, it is naturally worth being happy to have new companions join. Really? Is it a man or a woman? It would be nice if it's a pretty girl. Lubbock was obviously a little excited. You guys, you just think about pretty girls all day long. Main immediately rolled her eyes at Lubbock. You'll know when he arrives. Nagesita kept it a secret. It would be nice if it's a man, otherwise it's a bit too few for us to have only 2 men for the night raid. At this time, Brand suddenly spoke, revealing white teeth that were still shining. That healthy smile, coupled with this sentence, is a bit easy to cause misunderstanding. Brand. No, 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 let's have a girl. Lubbock strongly objected to this. So, little Akaheim wants a new companion to be a boy or a girl. At this time, Leone approached Akaheim and asked. It doesn't matter. Whether it's a boy or a girl, they are all companions with the same aspirations. Akaheim said expressionlessly. Oh, should I say it's worthy of being Akaheim? Leone smiled helplessly. Akaheim was so serious that she couldn't tease him even if she wanted to. Akaheim tilted her head slightly, and a question mark almost appeared on her head, as if she didn't understand what Leone wanted to say. Little Akaheim is obviously at the age where you want to fall in love, right? Haven't you met a boy who makes your heart beat until now? Leone simply asked directly. No, now is not the time to consider that kind of thing. Akaheim shook her head decisively. She would not consider such things before she completed her mission, and in her eyes, Haeton was always the most important person to her. I knew you would say this, but actually, there is no conflict between falling in love and completing the mission. If you really meet a boy you like very much one day, the mission will not stop you. Leone patted Akahima's shoulder and said with a smile. Maybe. Akahima didn't take Leone's words seriously. While everyone in Night Raid was laughing and talking, Chelsea was also riding a dangerous species and was about to arrive at the Night Raid base. She was riding a special dangerous species that had been tamed by the Revolutionary Army, named Flying Ghost Manta. Another translation, Sky Ray. The appearance is almost exactly the same as the manta ray living in the ocean. The difference is that it is n times larger, can carry multiple people at the same time, and can fly in the sky. The flying speed of the special dangerous species is naturally very fast, and Chelsea can reach her destination without spending much time. She held a lollipop in her mouth with a smile on her face. She was still looking forward to her new companion, and that innocent and kind guy will probably become her companion. At this moment, Bai Ye's face appeared in Chelsea's mind. P.S. The gift value is almost reaching the target, and I should be able to continue to add more tomorrow. Chapter 78. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At this moment, Chelsea has met everyone in Night Raid. From today on, this person will be our new companion in Night Raid. Her name is Chelsea. I hope you can get along well with her. Nagesitta introduced Chelsea to the others. Obviously, Nagesitta knew Chelsea, but the other members of Night Raid did not know her. Chelsea was smiling and seemed to be easy to get along with. Even when facing her former mortal enemy Akame, she did not show any hostility. It seems that this newcomer should not be difficult to get along with. Main's first impression of Chelsea was quite good, but it is estimated that she will change her mind soon. Oh! What a beautiful girl! Looking at Chelsea's appearance, Lubbock exclaimed. How do you feel? Is Lubbock ready to make a move? Leon whispered teasing beside Lubbock. No, I already have someone I like. Larbok also responded in a low voice. You actually already have a girl you like. Hearing this, Leon immediately asked curiously, who is it? This is a secret, I can't tell you. Larbok refused to answer. Just tell me secretly, I won't tell anyone else. Leon gently poked Lubbock with her elbow. Akatsuki. Main. Hill. The girls in our Night Raid are really cute. The only thing Leon didn't mention was the boss, because Nagesitta is indeed more masculine in terms of appearance and behavior style, and she has been with Lubbock for so long. Although Lubbock is a little lustful, he is always very serious when facing Nagesitta. Don't say. It is obvious that Lubbock doesn't trust Leon very much. Once Leon slips up and the girl he really loves knows, he will be embarrassed. Okay, it seems like a secret crush, then you should do your best. Leon had already determined that Lubbock was in a state of secret crush, so he was embarrassed to say who he liked. Others did not pay attention to Lubbock and Leon's whispers. Because Chelsea had already started to report the information about Bai Ye to Nagesitta, just like when she was at the Revolutionary Army base before, Chelsea told everything she had experienced at the Assassination Force base, except for some things that could not be said. In that case, Bai Ye is more suitable than I originally thought. Nagesitta said with a little surprise. According to Chelsea's description, Bai Ye is more conscientious than she thought. We can also see a clue about the change of the Empire Assassination Force. During the period when he was in charge of the Assassination Force did not have any direct conflict with our Night Raid or even the entire Revolutionary Army. Even the two encounters before and after did not have any hostility towards us. Nagesitta speculated, it should be his intention, otherwise the Empire Assassination Force will target us at any time under normal circumstances. Although that guy's attitude is not very good, he has indeed not hurt us. Only this point, Marin cannot deny. But when Hill tried to win him over today, he refused. Nagesitta thought, I don't know if he is worried about something. I can only ask it clearly when we meet next time. Huh? Has he been rejected? Chelsea was a little surprised, based on her understanding of Bai Ye. Unless there is really something he is worried about, he should not refuse, but she can think of something that Bai Ye might be worried about. There is really something, that is the people in the Assassination Force. With Bai Ye's personality, he must pay more attention to them. If Bai Ye really abandoned those people and ran to the Revolutionary Army, those people would definitely be severely punished by the Empire. Yes, but he didn't tell us the reason. Hill said. I roughly know the reason. I guess he can't let go of those people in the assassination team. Chelsea expressed her guess. If that's the case, then we should think about this reason carefully and how to convince him at that time. Nagesitta said, thanks to Hill's agreement with Bai Ye, we will have a chance to have a good talk with him in 3 days. 3 days later. Hearing this, Chelsea nodded slowly, with the corners of her lips slightly raised, as if she had thought of a very interesting prank. What's wrong, Chelsea? You seem to be very happy. Nagesitta noticed the change in Chelsea's expression and asked curiously. Chelsea smiled and said, nothing, just thinking that I can give that guy a surprise at that time. I am a little looking forward to his reaction. At the same time, Bai Ye and others are on their way to the Saiga cave. These flying dangerous species are all summoned by the Imperial artifact in the shape of a horn, which is called the Sky Horn. The ability of the Imperial artifact is to raise And tame flying dangerous species. Flying dangerous species below super dangerous species can be tamed directly, but it is ineffective for land dangerous species, but this imperial artifact also has an upper limit. For example, the maximum number of special dangerous species that can be tamed is no more than 10. When it reaches 10, one of them must be abandoned to release the quota for this special dangerous species. The secret skill is sacrifice. At the cost of one's own life, at most 2 flying super dangerous species can be directly bound. Each time a super dangerous species is driven, the lifespan will be slowly consumed. The girl who is most suitable for this imperial artifact summoned the dangerous species left by the original owner, that is, the fat woman before. There is only 1 special dangerous species and 4 first-level dangerous species left, and the rest were killed by Xiaobi. At this time, Bai Ye is exchanging the system things in the system mall. System points, 139. Ding. The host exchanged Fire Cloud Robe *24, deducted system points *24. Ding. The host exchanged Physique *55, deducted system points *55. Ding. The host exchanged Strength *20, deducted system points *20. Ding. The host exchanged Agility *20, deducted system points *20. Ding. The host exchanged Pupil Power *20, deducted system points *20. Except after exchanging for the Fire Cloud Robe, Bai Ye also allocated the existing system points to the attributes, Strength, 70, Agility, 70, Constitution, 185, Eye Power. Plus 20. Soon after, Bai Ye and his companions arrived at the Saiga Cave with the flying dangerous species. After initially determining the location for the base construction at a medium depth in the cave, Bai Ye took out all the Fire Cloud Robes in the system inventory and distributed them to everyone. These are the future uniforms of our Akatsuki organization. Try them on to see if they fit you. Chapter 79. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Bai Ye bought these Fire Cloud Robes according to his rough memory of everyone. After all, he didn't know everyone's specific body size, so they needed to try them on first, and if they didn't fit, they would return them and exchange them. The system was quite user-friendly in this regard, and if they didn't fit, they could just exchange them. There were a total of 24 Fire Cloud Robes, of course including Bai Ye's and Sai Lu's. Bai Ye's memory ability was very strong, and the Fire Cloud Robes could be customized according to the impression of everyone in his mind, so these Fire Cloud Robes were almost all fit. Only 1 or 2 were slightly larger or smaller, so they could just return them to the system and exchange them for the ones that fit. It feels much more handsome than the clothes I wore in the assassination unit before. Could it be that Commander Bai Ye designed it himself? It's not surprising. Commander Bai Ye's vision must be good. Now the Akatsuki organization can be said to be officially established. We must not let Commander Bai Ye down and carry out the original intention of the organization to the end. Everyone seemed to be quite satisfied with the Fire Cloud Robe. You don't have to call me Commander in the future. Now it's not the time to be in the Imperial Assassination Unit. You can just call me by my name. Bai Ye said to them immediately, but they couldn't call it out, feeling that calling Bai Ye's name directly was a bit too offensive. No. At this time, Hei Tong said bluntly, I'm still more used to calling you Commander, and you are now the leader of Akatsuki. There's no problem in continuing to call you Commander, right? That's fine. Bai Ye felt a little helpless. Now that the location has been chosen, the next step is to build the base. Bai Ye's plan is to recruit a bunch of workers from nearby cities or towns and offer them a suitable salary. Doing this in the name of an imperial official is enough to avoid most of the trouble. As for the location of the base, there is no need to worry about whether it will be exposed. Let the workers be blindfolded on the way and unblind them when they reach the depths of the cave. In this way, they only know that they are in the cave, but have no idea which cave they are in. Until now, Bai Ye still has memories of the imperial map in his mind. He clearly remembers which cities and towns are near the Saiga Cave, and he just needs to find those places according to his memory. Of course, this nearby is not really nearby. It is impossible for humans to live near a place like the Saiga Cave. even the nearest city is a long way away. Let's go to Masla village first. Bai Ye took Seliu, Haitong and the girl who used the imperial weapon Sky Horn. The rest of you can stay in the cave, or get familiar with the environment around the cave. Masla village is a village. Given their current situation, they would definitely give priority to recruiting workers in places like villages. Riding on the special dangerous species, Bai Ye and his team soon flew to the vicinity of Masra village. When they landed, they immediately attracted the attention of many villagers. That is a special dangerous species. Go report to the village chief, a special dangerous species has appeared. Wait, there seems to be someone on that dangerous species. There really is someone. But the dress is a bit strange. Could it be someone from a foreign ethnic group? Most people were very nervous. If it was really a foreign ethnic group, and there was a special dangerous species, their village would be in danger. Then, the village chief of Masra village, an elderly white-bearded old man, came to the entrance of the village under the protection of many fully armed militiamen. At this time, Bai Ye and his team had already gotten off the special dangerous species, and the special dangerous species was resting next to it. Even so, the villagers were scared and they all stayed far away and did not dare to approach. Excuse me, who are you? The village chief asked the mysterious people in the same uniform with a serious look. We are officials of the imperial capital, but we cannot reveal our true identities. This is my proof of working in the imperial capital guard. Bai Ye showed his previous identity certificate. It happened that the old village chief had visited the imperial capital many years ago and had seen the unique badge of the captain of the imperial capital guard. This is indeed the imperial capital guard, and it is the captain's badge. The old village chief immediately believed what Bai Ye said. Since he is the former captain of the imperial capital guard, his current official position is probably higher than before. But he was puzzled. Why did the other party suddenly come to their poor village? Except for collecting taxes, the imperial capital did not care about them at all. We need to build a fortress somewhere, so we need to recruit a large number of workers urgently. The salary is 100 gold coins per person, and it will be settled before the completion of the work. Bai Ye directly explained his purpose, without mentioning the Akatsuki organization. 100 gold coins. The old village chief was shocked. The other villagers around were also shocked. This is gold coins, not silver coins or copper coins. The value of 100 gold coins is very high. Let's put it this way, an ordinary family in their village can't save 100 gold coins even if they work hard for half a lifetime and save money every day, so 100 gold coins is an astronomical figure for them. Sir, please tell us directly how many workers you need, and we can definitely provide workers that will satisfy you. The old village chief said hurriedly. As if he was afraid that the other party would suddenly regret it. The finances of their village were already on the verge of collapse. With such a great thing delivered to their doorstep, they naturally could not let it go. Let's start with 100 people at the beginning, and the number of people will gradually increase later. The initial 100 people will each receive 100 gold coins, and the subsequent workers will be paid according to the working hours. Bai Ye said calmly. Okay, we can provide you with 100 excellent workers right away. The old village chief immediately returned to the village in a hurry. He walked so fast that he seemed to be 10 years younger. The cane in his hand became a burden. He ordered others to bring Bai Ye and his friends into the village and treat them well. After entering the village, you can see that the surrounding buildings are basically very old, but the population is still quite large. Bai Ye could guess from the reaction of the old village chief that this village was very poor and urgently needed money. It just so happened that he could provide a huge amount of funds for this village. Bai Ye didn't give them money for nothing, but these people were killed by the emperor. The country was used to oppressing and exploiting him, so he looked very generous. In fact, in his opinion, the remuneration he provided was slightly higher than the normal price, mainly because there was no exploitation by middlemen, and the workers could get the wages they deserved. Then, Bai Ye and the other 4 were taken to a room, and a lot of village specialty snacks were placed on the table. As soon as Hei Tong saw it, he was greedy and started eating directly. After a while, the old village chief came back and brought 3 boys and girls. These 3 are the best young warriors in our village, and they are also very capable at work. The old village chief then said to the three children, Tatsumi, Sao, Ieyas, you guys should show your abilities to this adult. Tatsumi Trio.ps, it should be because these 2 days are the concentrated days for the start of school, the traffic is obviously much lower, and there are fewer people sending gifts. It is a bit unexpected that it did not meet the standard, so I will add more tomorrow. Chapter 80. You are listening at novelfull.audio. There are 2 boys and a girl, the boy with brown hair and a frizzy hair is called Tatsumi, the black-haired boy with a white cloth tied on his head is called Ieyas, the last one is a cute girl with long smooth black hair, named Sao. The 3 are not only the best young warriors in Masra village, but also childhood sweethearts who grew up together. I know, Grandpa Village Chief. Tatsumi is obviously a swordsman. He rushed forward with a long sword in his hand and slashed the air. This speed and sense of power are not something that ordinary people can have. Considering Tatsumi's young age, Bai Ye thinks that this person's qualifications are still very good. Then, Sao and Ieyas also planned to follow Tatsumi, but then Bai Ye said, no need to be so troublesome. I don't have any requirements for the workers. They just need to be healthy and have some basic knowledge of construction. He felt that his requirements were equivalent to no requirements for people in this village. In the Empire Age, especially in this kind of poor little village, almost everyone knows a little bit of everything. Of course there is no problem. The remaining workers are ready. The old village chief said immediately, there are not too many people in their village who meet this requirement. 100 people can be gathered casually, however, in order to show their attitude and make these big men have a better first impression of them, they gave priority to a group of villagers with better physical fitness, so even Tatsumi, Sao, and Ieyas were pulled over by the old village chief. Their real strength can defeat the first-level dangerous species. It may be more difficult to face the special dangerous species, but in this remote small village, their ability is already outstanding. Originally, they planned to go to the imperial capital to join the army with the hope of the whole village in 2 days, determined to make a career, and then they would be able to solve the difficulties faced by their village, although they suddenly had to work for the officials of the imperial capital, which might disrupt their plans. It was just right to help their village and alleviate the financial problems for a while. Moreover, the other party was an official of the imperial capital. From what the village chief said, the official position was not low. If they performed well, they might be promoted to the army in advance, which would make it easier for them to be promoted. We will definitely work hard. Tatsumi had a very sunny and energetic look on his face, as if he was full of expectations for his future. He was naive and had no idea of the true face of the imperial capital. Tatsumi is really motivated, and we can't fall behind. Ieyas said with a smile. Seiyu also smiled slightly, but at this time her eyes were attracted by the cute girl with black hair and black pupils. The girl was seen eating snacks on the table in small bites. Seiyu was immediately concerned. The other person looked about her age, and so were the adults next to them. They were so young and had already made a name for themselves in the imperial capital. If she, Tatsumi, and Ieyas could be like them, they would definitely bring hope to the village. At the same time, Hei Tong also noticed Seiyu's gaze. After a while, seeing that Seiyu hadn't looked away, Hei Tong took all the snacks on the table to her seat, and said with a silly face and a serious tone, "These are all mine." But she immediately felt that this was inappropriate. After all, these snacks originally belonged to others, and changed her words, "But, it's not impossible to give you some." Seiyu was stunned for a moment. Obviously she didn't expect the other person to say these words. It was very different from the majestic imperial official she imagined. No, I don't want to eat those snacks. I'm thinking that you are all so young and awesome." Seiyu came to her senses and quickly explained. "With your qualifications, you are quite good in the imperial capital, although the imperial capital is not that beautiful." Bai Ye said to them. "Really?" Hearing this, Tatsumi was immediately more excited. Bai Ye's words gave him more confidence. He was full of expectations for the subsequent trip to the imperial capital, and felt that as long as he worked hard, he would definitely be able to do something in the imperial capital. In fact, if Tatsumi had not been cheated of all his money by Leon at the beginning in the original book, and if he had successfully joined the army, he would probably be noticed by General Bud and trained. Personally, because compared to his current strength, Tatsumi's strongest point is his growth potential, which has been recognized by General Bud. Of course, when Tatsumi knows the truth about the death of Sao and Aiya's, he may still join the night raid to overthrow the Empire. Road. Soon, 100 workers arrived and gathered at the entrance of the village. Since the newly built fortress is a top secret, you will all be blindfolded until you reach the work site. At this time, Bai Ye said to everyone, so when you sit on the dangerous species later, remember to hold on firmly. Does this mean that we will sit on the back of the dangerous species later? It should be a very far place. I heard that flying dangerous species are the fastest means of travel. To be honest, I'm a little scared. I have never experienced using a dangerous species as a mount. Some people are obviously afraid of dangerous species, while others feel novel and want to experience the feeling of riding a dangerous species. Don't worry, our dangerous species have all been tamed and will never hurt you. Bai Ye immediately said to everyone. Afterwards, all the workers, including the Tatsumi trio, were blindfolded, and then helped them sit firmly on the back of the dangerous species and hold on firmly, and then they could return to the Saiga cave. The flight didn't take long. When the workers reached the depths of the Saiga cave, Bai Ye allowed them to take off the black cloth covering their eyes. They opened their eyes to see the surroundings clearly, and only knew that this should be a cave. But they didn't think too much. They came here to work and make money, and they didn't want to think about things that were meaningless and dangerous. As soon as they got on, everyone was very motivated. People in this world who have really been trained have strong physical fitness and are naturally very efficient at work. First, build a small base initially. It won't take many days for these hardworking and strong people, and then slowly expand it later. Let someone urge these workers to work a little, and Bai Ye doesn't need to worry about anything else. Bai Ye still has something to do, that is, to meet with the leader of the night raid. Of course, he has not forgotten his agreement with Hill. P.S. There will be another update later. I'm not in good condition today, so I won't update it. I'll update it tomorrow.